Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 8th edition of Nuclear Heat for WrestlingInc.com. I'm here today to talk specifically about the Survivor Series that's going to be taking place this Sunday. I wanted to say a week from today because I don't know if a lot of you realize it or not. I'm sure some of you do, but let's face it, a lot of you have not been around as long as I have. The Survivor Series, when it first started in 1987, was called the Thanksgiving Day tradition because the fact of the matter is the very first Survivor Series in 1987 was held on Thanksgiving night. And the Survivor Series came about coming off of the worldwide astronomical success of WrestleMania 3 with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. WWE wanted to capitalize on that. Everybody was talking about it. It was huge at the time. So they came up with this concept called the Survivor Series that was to start in 1987 on Thanksgiving night. And basically the idea was that it was going to be elimination tag team matches. The entire card from beginning to end, teams, elimination tag team matches. And it started with just some of the greatest talents in the history of professional wrestling. As I said, the first one, Hogan was on one side, Andre was on the other side. From 1987 to 1990, the first four Survivor Series were actually on Thanksgiving night. And I got to tell you, it was an event back then. I remember, Survivor Series came part of Thanksgiving. You'd watch your football during the day. You'd have your turkey. Then you'd watch the Survivor Series at night. Everybody looked forward to it. And it was really the type of thing where the entire family sat around and watched it. The next 4 years, from 91 to 94, they switched it to Wednesday night, the day before Thanksgiving. It wasn't until 1995 when the Survivor Series fell into the pay-per-view slot, the Sunday night slot, like all the other, pay-per-views. And I got to be honest with you, listen, I wasn't working for the WWE back then when it started, and I'm sure they did it for a reason, but being on Thanksgiving night, even the eve of Thanksgiving, really made this event, feel special, feel big. It was a spectacle. And once it became another pay-per-view on Sunday, I think things changed a little bit. There's a lot of historic references that go with Survivor Series. I want to point some out to you. 1992, the very first casket match took place at the Survivor Series. 23 years ago, the very first casket match. 1997, the Montreal Screw Job. I got to be honest with you, that was such a traumatic experience for me that I didn't even realize that took place at the Survivor Series. I'll be honest with you, so many years, it's called the Montreal Screw Job, Montreal Screw Job. As I'm doing my research for this show, I'm reminded that took place at the Survivor Series in 1997, 1998. This is a lot what I'm going to talk about today, but this was an elimination tournament to crown a new WWE champion. There had not been a tournament like this since WrestleMania 4 in Atlantic City, which I was at, by the way. I was at WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5 in Atlantic City. 2002, first elimination casket match. First elimination chamber match took place in 2002. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've never seen an elimination chamber match. I've always wanted to see one. I have never seen a WWE elimination chamber match, and I do hope to see one. I want to talk a little bit today about 1998 and this tournament to name the new WWE champion. Because this is something I vividly remember. Because when a lot of people ask me, Vince, what do you think was the greatest storyline personally, that you wrote throughout your entire career? And without hesitation, I always say the 1998 Survivor Series, when Rock became the champion and we swerved the entire world when Rock joined forces with Mr. McMahon. I remember this very, very, very vividly because at the time, it was myself and it was Ed Ferrara writing the show. And as I've said a million times before, we took great pride in every single show that we ever penned. People in the WWE tell me, today that, a lot of the shows are basically written until up until the time they go on air. Stuff is changed at the last minute. I can tell you for a fact, it did not work that way back then. And a lot had to do with it was the fact that there were only two writers. There were only Ed Ferrara and myself. So the Rock turn was something we had mapped out months in advance. We knew where we were going with this, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we subtly told the story, I'd say over like an 8-week period on TV. It was the kind of thing like the movie The Usual Suspects, where you see the finish and it's holy crap, what just happened? That was the last thing we expected. But then you can go back in time and watch the 8 weeks that led up to that, and you would say, oh my God, why didn't I see that? There were so many little hints in the story leading up to that night that I'll be honest with you, I'm very proud as a writer, to have written such an in-depth and a detailed story. It may have been the most detailed story of all time. And I remember there was one very significant point in the story. And that point came when there was no physicality at all between Vince McMahon and The Rock. But we had built this thing, and now we really wanted to suck the people in. And the only way we could do that is through physicality. But, the challenge that Ed and I were faced with was, well, how can there be any physicality if these two are really working together? And the way the story played out, they had really been working together. And, Ed and I sat there and what could Rock do to Vince that wouldn't kill Vince and wouldn't hurt Vince, but it had the illusion of just destroying him, but it would protect the story that the two of these guys had been in on it forever. And here was the beauty of it. Rock had gotten the people's elbow over to such a point that it was huge. When Rock dropped the people's elbow on somebody, hitting the ropes back and forth, kissing the elbow, setting it up, when he dropped it on somebody, you would think that he literally shot somebody in the head. That's how much the people were into it. If you go back and look at, prior to the Survivor Series, anytime Rock put that into motion, the people were just so into it, they would blow up. So Ed and I looked at each other and we're like, wait a minute. The people have made this huge and the people love the people's elbow. But the fact of the matter is he's only dropping an elbow. So for The Rock to drop an elbow on Vince McMahon, it's not going to kill Vince McMahon. And quite frankly, Vince was going to take one for the team. So that's exactly what we did when Rock finally dropped the people's elbow on Vince McMahon. The people went through the roof. In their mind, Rock had just tombstone him, hit him with a stunner, every finishing move you could imagine, when the fact of the matter is it was nothing but an elbow. So that's how they were allowed to have the physicality and have people still believe that these two guys were at odds. Now, I got to tell you, that a story completely works when it happened. I was in the building because I wanted to see the reaction. I knew nobody saw this coming. And to be in the building and all of a sudden, McMahon calls for the bell. Rock puts Mankind in the sharpshooter, playing off of what happened last year. McMahon calls for the bell. All of a sudden, there's the embrace between Rock and McMahon. And you could have heard a pin drop in the building at that point in time. It was one of those holy crap moments that nobody in a million years ever saw coming. And I got to tell you, at that time, I was very proud of what Ed and myself had achieved because, quite frankly, over the period of time that we wrote it, this may have been one of the greatest written angles of all time. I'm just being honest with you. And here's the thing. You can't duplicate something like this today, quite honestly, because there's just too many writers. There's just too many people involved in the process. This was a two-man writing team. It was me and Ed. We made sure every I was dotted and every T was crossed. And at the end of the day, it came out and it was a masterpiece. Now, I'll tell you something that happened the following night that a lot of people don't know about this. And this is very, 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 very interesting. The following night, Rock was going to be, this was the official start of the corporation. Rock was going to be labeled the corporate champion. And I remember prior to the show, me, Rock, and Vince were in Vince's office, and we were going over the promo that Rock was going to cut that night. And this was very tricky and very intricate because The Rock had the promo in his head. He kind of gave it, to me and Vince. But I'll be honest with you, Rock was so cool. The way he dressed, the way he talked, the way he looked, it would have been so easy for Rock to go out there and for him to come across as a baby face in this promo. But we could not allow that to happen. He had just aligned himself with Vince McMahon, and this was a little bit tricky because as cool as Rock was, and as much as everybody wanted to be The Rock, once he became the line with Vince, we had to make sure that people hated The Rock for selling out as much as they hated Vince. So after Rock, cut this promo, we sat there, and it was mainly Vince, I'll be honest with you, who basically said, no, Rock, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't do this. It's going to make you a baby face. This night is extremely important. You're aligned with me now. You have to be a full-fledged heel. So we had to work on the promo, to cover Rock's coolness and to really paint the picture of Rock being a heel. And I got to tell you, Rock was very uncomfortable with it because there were some things in that promo, that character not necessarily would have said. But on that night, it was vital that he had to be a heel, especially, we knew where we were going with Austin. And Austin was the ultimate babyface. We had to make Rock the ultimate heel. We had already teased that at the Survivor Series. So it's interesting to watch the Monday night following the Survivor Series. Look at that Rock promo. I want to talk a little bit about this Survivor Series, what I would do, especially going along the lines of what it is I think they're trying to accomplish. I think a very, very long time ago, well over a year ago, Vince McMahon had made the decision that Roman Reigns was going to be the guy. I think what happened was they had the Royal Rumble. They laid it out horribly. They put Daniel Bryan in the match, and he got eliminated. There was no reason to put him in there. The way the match ended, it was 100% predictable that Roman Reigns was going to win. I believe Kane was in there, Big Show and Reigns maybe. Let's face it, Big Show and Kane are not going to win this the Royal Rumble. It was booked horribly, and it was also in Philadelphia. So they booed Reigns out of the building, having nothing to do with his talent, nothing that he did. He was following orders. At that point, they had to switch gears a little bit, and they had a lot of a lot of rebuilding to do when it came to Roman Reigns, because I'm telling you, Vince wanted to stay with the guy as a babyface. He was still going to be the guy. And I got to be honest with you, I'm critical of the WWE at times, when they deserve to be critical, when I deserve to be critical. But I think the way they've turned this around, it has taken a lot of time. It has taken almost a year. But, since the Rumble to now, I think they finally have the people back with Roman Reigns. Looking at this tells me that Vince probably wants to stick with that original game plan of Reigns being the babyface. Of course, a monkey wrench was thrown into this plan with Rollins being hurt. So that could change a lot of things. But if I know Vince the way I do, Reigns is still the guy and still the babyface guy. With that being said, I would have Reigns and Ambrose go to the finals, and I would have Ambrose be the heel and screw Reigns. I would have Ambrose sell out to the Authority, very much like The Rock sold out to Vince McMahon back in 1998. I would put Ambrose in a suit, take everything away from Ambrose that has made him a fan favorite, and make him be the sellout. Because now you've got Reigns in an even stronger baby face position of how many hoops does this guy have to jump through in order to finally get the WWE title. If that was the plan from day one and they want to stick with that game plan, I think they could add this extra layer to it by having his other friends screw him now. So if that's the objective, to keep Reigns a babyface, that's the way I would lay this Survivor Series out. But again, it's difficult. I don't work there. I don't know if plans have changed. I'm just going by what I know and what I see and what I believe that they're trying to accomplish. So there you have it, a little history on the Survivor Series before Vince Russo, a little history when I was there, and a little foreshadowing into the future. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to watch the event. I'm interested to see what happens. Like you, I hope they pay it off well. I hope they don't make it too predictable. But, that's it. Listen, again, I want to tell you, Monday night, follow us. We review Raw every Monday night right here on WrestlingInc.com. And for other podcasts, you can follow me throughout the entire week at VinceRussoBrand.com. We're running a special there. You could become a member less than $1 a week. Just go to VinceRussoBrand.com and use the code word brand. But there you have it, everybody. Edition number 8 of Nuclear Heat. I hope I gave you a little insight into the Survivor Series, and we'll talk again come Monday. Listen, have a great holiday. I'll see you soon.